Hi guys. So yeah, I haven't made a video in forever, but that's because I've been super busy. But I am here with a really weird video today. So, as the title states, Queen Virgin Remy fired me when I was 6 months pregnant, and I want to talk about it. There are certain things that they did and certain practices that I do not agree with, and I feel like when you apply for a job, you know, you should be given the choice to decide whether you want to work at a place. Like, you should be given the information, the pros and cons, just not all the pros and all the benefits of working at a place. You should know the bad too. So, I'm just going to get into that. So, let's just get right into it. I will give you guys the timeline first, and then we can get into emotions later. Okay? Right. So, also, Adam is here to stop me and ask me questions if I say something that's not super clear, or if he just needs clarification on something that I skipped over. But I think I'm pretty thorough, so we should be okay. Alright. So, I was hired last November. November of 2016. I was hired at QVR, Queen Virgin Remy, when I was 5 weeks pregnant by Penny Proud. To keep all identities, you know, protected and whatever. Like, I'm not trying to put anyone's government name out there. I'm using names from the Proud family because they just fit. So yeah, I was hired by Penny Proud. I really liked Penny. We had a lot in common. She taught me about the store, how easy it was to run, and when I was hired, I didn't know that QVR was Black owned. And when Penny hired me, she explained that the company is very big on hiring from within. So an associate could work, prove themselves, and eventually open her own store in a different location. And being a Black girl, period, like, I just know how rare those opportunities are for us. So since there was a whole business that was operating like that, I was just ecstatic. I was like, I have been asleep. Where has QVR been all my life? Yeah. So that's kind of where I was when I was hired. And then in December, I was just like, I have a 4-year degree. I'm gonna ask for a raise. I was only there for a month, but I only wanted $1 raise because I was making $9 an hour because that's just what they hired at. And I was just like, I really feel like I deserve $10 an hour. I have a 4-year degree. I've worked with different brands before. I feel like I deserve it. I was hired as a store associate, which just means that I would talk to customers, tell them about the hair, cash them out, and then I kind of went above and beyond to think of different ways to implement social media as well as events for our store, just because that's what I was interested in doing outside of the store. So, yeah,
it's marketing.
Marketing, yeah, basically. I love marketing. If you actually follow my channel, you know that I especially love visual marketing. Yeah, I'm a creative director. Okay, moving on. Shameless plug. So I was just like, you know, I deserve that $1. So I was like, Penny, can you set me up? Can you call the big boss and ask them whether I can get $10 an hour? And she was like, sure, girl. So she calls Wizard Kelly, and she's like, hey, I have this associate. Her name's Dominique. She's a really hard worker. She's super smart. She's great. She like sings all my praises and all my accolades. And she comes out of her office and she's like, the wizard wants to speak to you. And I was just like, I can't. I just wanted $1, man. I didn't want it to be a big deal. So I take the phone and I'm just like, hi, man behind the screen. What's going on? And he basically offers me a store in Brooklyn. Like I said, QVR has 15 different locations, and the way that the store archetype works is there's a manager, there's an assistant manager, and then maybe 2 associates, 1 to 2 associates. Very small store cast. Well, I was just like, a store in Brooklyn? I just wanted $10 an hour. But, you know, he kind of started digging, and he was like, well, where are you from? And I was like, I'm from Brooklyn. Side note, I grew up in Brooklyn, but my whole family's up there, but my mom became disabled in 2005. So we moved to the South because the way of living down here is just a lot more accessible for someone who's disabled. That being said, I am an only child. I do have an adopted sister, but I am an only child, so I was very close to my cousins, very close to my aunts and uncles. So when we moved, I felt very separated, and I don't blame anyone for it, but it's definitely like an emotion that I had. So when I was talking to him, he was just like, well, where's your family? And I was like, they're all in New York. And he's like, well, you're down here? And I was like, yeah. And he started manipulating me, and he was basically like, well, don't you want to be with them? Don't you want to live with them? Like, blah, 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 blah. And then he started talking about my career and opportunities, and I was just like, okay, I'll think about it. Like, it was definitely not something that I could answer right on the spot, but I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. So I hang up the phone, and I start thinking about moving to New York, and I'm talking to my mom. Then I'm like, oh, Penny and the Wizard don't know that I'm pregnant, because at that point I was 5 weeks. So I was just like, oh man. So I go to Penny and I'm like, girl, I have a person growing inside me. He's like, are you gonna tell Wizard Kelly? And I was like, I gotta. Even though I know a lot of people do it for protection because the world is the way it is, they don't tell people till further along that they're pregnant. But me, like, if you're gonna give me a job, I need you to have enough faith in me to know that I'm gonna do the job the same way when I'm pregnant and after I have my child. So I was just like, I'm gonna just tell him. So after I told him that I was pregnant, everything changed. I'm just gonna look at my notes to make sure I'm on track. Yes, okay. So everything changed. The day before, he told me that he was gonna relocate me to Brooklyn and pay for my relocation fees and pay for a portion of my first few months of rent to like help me assimilate into, you know, New York living, because it's expensive as hell up there. And the next day, after I told him I was pregnant, he was not trying to help me with relocation costs, and he told me that I should live with my family. He was offering me no assistance, no help, just like whatever. And that was definitely the first big red flag. So I was just like, I'm not gonna live with my family. I don't need, this isn't an opportunity that I'm looking for, so I'm good. So enter the store assistant manager. Her name is Dejanay. I'm calling her Dejanay. Dejanay, the assistant manager, expressed how it upset her that I was offered a store and she was not. Let's talk about Dejanay for a little while.
Please.
Let's talk about Dejanay for a little while. She was the assistant store manager, and being the assistant store manager, you were supposed to be the team lead of street teaming, which is when we would wear our shirts and we would go out and we would spread the word of Queen Virgin Remy and just like talk to people about what we do, where our different types of hair, how much it is, and like, you know, try to coerce them into buying some hair, which I think street teaming is really important in the city, especially like Charlotte, that's so small, and we have like 5 major virgin hair retailers. So it's actually really important to get out there and like kind of get into people's minds if you want them to buy from you. I'm sorry to put it that way. Let's talk about a couple of offenses that Dejanay was guilty of. So one of our store policies was that if you did hair or if you did makeup, you couldn't solicit your services within the store because it distracts from the business. Duh. I did makeup for like 6 or 7 years. I did makeup for a minute before I worked there. Not once did I give out a card or did I offer my services. Dejanay was in school for doing hair. And every opportunity she got, she would either offer to make somebody a wig or to have them come to her house and do hair. Like, she just said F it about the store policy. On several occasions, she asked me where she could buy weed. And you know, I'm not a judgmental person. AJ is, but I'm not. And you know, do what you do. But I was pregnant and I was just like, you were asking the new pregnant girl where you could buy weed? That is a bold choice. So like I said earlier, she was the head of street teaming. So when I went street teaming with her, what that actually consisted of was going to her house to watch movies, going to the mall to walk around and window shop, and, you know, going to restaurants to eat. That's what street teaming was to her. And the first time I went street teaming with her, she kind of tried to persuade the way I saw Queen Virgin Remy, because like I said, it was still very new, and she told me that it was this horrible company that just overworked everyone and nobody was paid enough. And she basically said, she just expressed like everything that she really disliked about the company, and she even went as far as to say out of her own mouth as an assistant manager, Wizard Kelly is a pimp and we are his hoes. Till this day still blows my mind. Alright, so let's fast forward to the end of December. Penny Proud, the girl who hired me, she quits without giving anyone any notice. I think she might have told Dejanay maybe the night before or that morning, but originally she didn't give anyone any notice, and she kind of just left. A little bit before she left, we had another manager from another store transfer into our store. We'll call her Sticky. She transferred into our store, so Sticky, Dejanay, and myself, we were all interviewed for the manager position, but nobody was declared manager. At the time, we were told that I was just being interviewed to just be interviewed, because that is a good way to spend time, and that Dejanay and Sticky were both being interviewed for the manager position. When none of us knew who the manager was, the tension between the two of them was ridiculous. Now, Sticky wasn't that bad. I never had any bad altercations with her, but she did strike me as hella passive aggressive. Like, if something rubbed her the wrong way, she would just get quiet and not make eye contact with me. And I was just like, you are a fucking manager. I'm sorry, but you are a manager. So we're living in like these weeks of turmoil, and Sticky and Dejanay, they have like this weird tension, and like every single time Sticky leaves the store, Dejanay is just talking and talking and talking like all these horrible things about her. And like, I get it to the extent of like, you're frustrated, you've been working at this job for 2 years, you feel like you deserve a promotion. Like, I get that frustration, but it wasn't even like talking about her work ethic. She started to get really personal and talk about her appearance and talk about like her cleanliness and talk about like her personal life. And like, it got to the point where it was every single day. Like, that's what Dejanay was living for. She was living for coming into work just to be negative. Basically, nobody was ever declared manager. The two of them like had this really weird tension for a couple of weeks because neither of them knew who was gonna get the job. And yeah, Dejanay was just like, she was kind of hitting under the belt with a lot of the things that she was saying. So mid-January, Wizard Kelly visits our store. Yeah, he visits the store, and we all have private meetings with him. And he tells me to my face that he thinks I should run the store, but his 2 other employees have seniority and he doesn't want to piss them off. And like, in my mind, I was just like, what type of business is this? But I was just like, cool. I'm just lowly Dominique. I don't know anything. I'm here to learn. And you know, this man, he started a hair company out of his trunk. He now has 15 locations. I was just like, let me not knock it. Like, if that's what he wants to do. He offers me a manager position in Baltimore. And I'm like, okay, maybe I consider it. The same day, he tells Dejanay that she either has to quit hair school or step down from her manager position and just become an associate like me. She, just with her school schedule, she couldn't fulfill the hours that were expected of a manager. At the end of January, after it was declared that Sticky was the manager and Dejanay either had to quit school or step down, I applied to be assistant manager. Because the way that I saw it was, this was a business. I was more than qualified to be assistant manager. Dejanay, in her 1,000,001 rants, had made it very clear. Dejanay has said in her 1,000,001 rants that she's not quitting hair school. She's not sacrificing anything in her life outside QBR. You know, she's not changing anything, but she still wants to be a manager. And I was like, okay, girl, do you. But I could be a better manager than you. It just is what it is. I have full free time. I have more experience at any of this than you, and if I'm in the running to get my own store, I feel like I could learn more as an assistant manager. So I wrote an actual proposal and everything, and I sent it, and she found out. That's when all hell broke loose, right? After I applied, Dejanay was still like, if she wasn't talking about Sticky, she was talking about me to my face, like just saying like how offended she was that I was being offered a store again, how she felt like she worked so hard and blah blah blah. And it was just a little much, because at this point I was 3 months pregnant, 3 to 4 months pregnant. It got to the point where I went to Sticky and I was like, hey, Dejanay got some things on her heart constantly. So can we implement a store policy where we don't talk about, you know, negative things about each other or about the way the store is run? If we just can't do that in the store, that'd be great. That's all I wanted. I just wanted everyone to stop talking about each other. That's all I wanted. Let's just stop talking about it, because it's not productive. It doesn't make anybody feel good. And like, I was constantly telling Dejanay, I was like, what do you want to do with your life? Focus on what you want to do with your life. Focus on what makes you happy. Like talking to a brick wall. And you know, she was one of my first experiences where I learned that if somebody wants to be unhappy, they will be unhappy. there's nothing you can do to change that or to change their life. So I told Sticky that, you know, it'd be great if we could implement a store policy just to keep positivity up. And, you know, Sticky being prime manager material, she thought that the best way to solve this problem would be to put me and Dejanay in front of each other and to talk about all our grievances with the store. Yes. Which I had none. My only grievances were with how Dejanay with how Dejanay constantly felt. And like, I didn't even lie to her. I was just like, girl, you're always unhappy. Like you said, you always say that this job is short term. You always say that you don't want to be here. You always say that this job does nothing for you. I feel like I can be a better assistant manager than you. And then what she did was say, she flipped the script, said that I was lying, said everything was a lie. And then she flipped it and she said that I wouldn't be able to be assistant manager or a manager in any store because I was pregnant. But after that confrontation, Dejanay she decided something in her mind. I do not understand her perspective. I do not understand anything about the way she thinks, so I can't tell you what she decided in her mind, but she did decide something in her mind after that day. After that confrontation, I was just done. I was so done with QBR. This was the end of January, and
at that point, did you expect to be fired or?
No, I didn't expect to be fired or anything. I was just mentally done, and I knew being pregnant, I was just like, I'm just gonna stick this out, and then after I have my baby and get my life together, I'll start looking for another job. It was not the type of thing where I was just like, oh, F you guys, I'm gonna leave tomorrow. But I did realize like the company was not a company I could grow within just because of its tactics. Every single decision that was made because of pride or because of ego. There was no strategy, there was no tact, there was nothing, and it was just so disappointing. It's like the more I found out about the company, the more disappointed I became. And that last incident was where I was mentally like, okay, I'm not going to try to help you guys. I will do the best at my job, but I'm not going to do anything outside of my requirements or blah, 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 blah. I will do what you guys tell me to do with a smile on my face and call it a day. After that confrontation, I'm not a person who's like ever immersed in drama. I don't ever think that it's worth it. The only time that confrontation is worth it is in business to me. But it shouldn't be confrontation. It should definitely just be communication, but a lot of people don't see it that way. But again, neither here nor there. But after that, I realized I'm at this job that I don't have any room for growth. I'm at this job where now I don't think either of my managers like me, and I'm constantly with them. So I decided to work on my spirituality. January was when I read The Secret. Please don't roll your eyes because I know that's a book that everybody reads. But it was the first book that I read that kind of started me on positive thinking and like just understanding how much my thoughts influence my actions and influence how I move in the world. So after I started that book, I started just reading non-stop. The way QBR worked was, it's a hair boutique, so it's empty the majority of the time. We were totally allowed to read. We were totally allowed to have our computers. So what I did all the time was, if I wasn't reading, I was working on my website. If I wasn't working on my website, I was looking at pictures that you know, I had taken with Adam, like projects that we were working on with different models and things. I was always working on myself when I was at work, and the only time that I was working for QBR was when there was a person in the store or if I was asked specifically to do anything. I didn't interact with the managers. I never asked them like how their days were, how are you doing, how was your weekend, blah blah blah, which was, I will say, is very different from how I normally am. Like even if I don't like a person, I will still say, hey, what's going on with you, are you okay, like you seem down. Like that's just who I am as a person. But after that conflict, I kind of just like shut down, and not in the way where like I wasn't smiling and like I gave anyone an attitude. I never gave anyone an attitude, but I was just like, I'm here to do my job. So that was the end of January, and then February came and they hired a new associate. They hired a new associate maybe in the middle of February. I was sent out to street team with her, and I asked her, I was just like, hey, what do you know about street teaming? And she didn't know anything. So I explained to her how to approach people, a nice little spiel for her to tell them just to like warm up talking about QBR. and you know, kind of quizzed her on like the different types of products that we had. And actually, this is a side story. I didn't write this in my notes, but I just remembered it happened. So this new girl, right? I was with her and I was assigned to like clean the hair or something, but the phone kept ringing and she kept picking it up and hanging it up. So I was like, hey, home skillet, what's going on? Why you keep picking up the phone and hanging it up? And she was like, oh, it's this answering machine and it keeps saying Q call and I think it's like a telemarketer. So I picked it up the next time, and when Queen Virgin Remy gets calls from the website, like the number that's given on the website, it's an automated number and like we have to press a button to accept it to bring it in. So nobody trained her and told her that.
Oh God. Why?
So I was like, okay. So after that, I went to Dijonais because again, I was just being professional. Like I don't talk to you unless I gotta. So I was just like, hey, just letting you know that the new girl is doing this. You might want to train her on the phones again. I'm out. You know? So that happened. Okay, so going back to street teaming. She hadn't been taught anything about street teaming, so I was telling her like how to approach people, what to say about the hair, blah, blah, blah. So we get back from street teaming. I get called in the back room by Dijonais. Sticky is nowhere to be found. And I'm told that I am terminated and that my services are no longer needed. And I was just like, girl, why? What's going on? And she, what did she say? She said, because of my professionalism. And what was the other thing? Professionalism and...
Not helping with...
It was something that had to do with the quality of my work,
yeah.
but I can't remember how they phrased it. I was like, well, this is definitely a personal issue because those two things have never been true about me, but okay. It's definitely a personal issue. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. This has nothing to do with me. There was no reason for you to take the new girl out and ask her how I trained her. That's not your place. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, you keep stepping over boundaries. Like when you saw her picking up the phone and hanging it up, you didn't have to come and tell me that she was making a mistake. It's not your place to try to train people. And at that point, I was like, yo, there's nothing I can even do for y'all. Like, even as an associate, there's nothing I can do for y'all. Y'all, the fact that this person with such an odd and unusual perspective was made a manager, that says so much about the company itself. And I was really proud of how I handled that situation because I was just like, okay, well, I wish you guys the best. Have a good day. And I walked out. I didn't cuss nobody out. I didn't come for anybody's mama. I was just like... It is what it is. Y'all, I think I'm on the last page. Okay. Let's talk about two things. One, let's talk about why I'm not suing. So, I got a phone call the other day, and I live in North Carolina, which is a right-to-work state. So it is close to impossible to sue if you're ever terminated for anything, whether you like it's for race, whether it's for sexual preference or anything. Like you just can't sue in North Carolina. It's really effed up. So I got a call the other day and they're like, we're actually moving your case up. So if you want to actually go through with this, we need to start making some choices. And I was like, whoa, really? I just expected them to like investigate and just be like, girl, we ain't got nothing. But they took like, my baby's 5 months old, so they took like 5 months to investigate and then they got back to me. So like I was actually faced with the decision, like, do you want to go through with this? And I'm deciding not to. One, because getting fired from that job was the best thing that ever happened to me. All the stress that came from that job was what pushed me into finding my spirituality, which was very, very important. Not to mention that what I'm doing now, I wouldn't have had the courage to do it if I wasn't pushed into this situation, and I'm very thankful for that, and I'm very busy. So I feel like when you're busy and it's from things that you have to do yourself, like no one's telling you to do it, you have to stay focused. And I just feel like having a court case like of such a big degree and like finding a lawyer, not even finding a lawyer, but like keeping up with a lawyer and keeping up with new things that are happening, all to just get some money, because that's what it would be. That's what it would be for. I don't want revenge. I don't want to prove myself or my point, and it would literally just be for money. And I'm getting so busy with like what I'm doing right now, I don't think it would be worth it. The second reason I'm not suing was I got told that I actually had a case, and when it comes to employment cases, especially in North Carolina, personally, just from what I've researched, it doesn't look like they involve small amounts of money. Like if I would be suing, I'd be suing for a very large amount of money. And if I were to win, I don't want to be responsible for anyone to lose their job. What I know about QVR is that it does have 15 locations, and I don't know how strong these locations are, and just from what I saw within my store, I wouldn't want to take money from the company and then for it to be so easy for Wizard Kelly to say, okay, we have to close a couple of stores just to balance this out, or some people need to get fired just to balance this out. So I just don't feel okay with that. And the last reason, which might surprise you, but the last reason that I am not suing Queen Virgin Remy is because I actually admire Wizard Kelly, y'all. But no, seriously, because God knows that man's made a lot of mistakes. But he started a company out of his trunk, and it is now one of the leading hair retailers in the country. And not just that, but his timing was always impeccable. I think it's a little bit different now because there are so many competitors and the internet has made such an impact on the virgin hair game, which is how I wanted to help, but I got fired, so whatever. But let's just talk about why I'm making this video. QVR has a interesting technique of hiring Black girls who are in situations and kind of enforcing that power the worse their situation gets. So obviously if you're looking for a job, you're unemployed. So that's one thing. After I found out that after I told them that I was pregnant, I do feel like I was given, or I was tempted with more opportunities. I feel like the managers, depending on, you know, their personality type, may do that as a power play, just to instill fear, as in saying, you know, like, if you don't do this right, you'll lose your job, and your job is the only good thing you have in your life right now. And that is something that really, really frustrated me. I felt like after I told them that I was pregnant, it was something that was brought up a lot. It was something that was speculated against a lot. And it's not supposed to be like that. And it's not supposed to be like that when we're working with each other as Black people. Like, and that's the thing that just really, really upset me, is that when you have a job, especially as a manager, just because your ego is bruised and just because a person intimidates you, that doesn't give you the right to give into emotion and paint them as this person that is undeserving of a job just because it'll give you peace because you're not happy with yourself. That is the most frustrating thing about people who are given positions of power when they don't deserve them and don't know how to handle them. And when you have a job, it's important to take that seriously. It's important when you give a job to take that seriously. You don't take away someone's job just because your feelings are hurt, or just because you're insecure, or just because your life's not going the way you want it. That's someone's livelihood. And my job was taken away when I was 6 months pregnant. And if it were not for my partner, and if it was not for my amazing support system, I don't know what could have happened. And like I said, they hire people in situations to kind of try to get them to behave. And that type of thinking is so manipulative and gross. And I feel like the one thing I can do is make this video to kind of, you know, if you were thinking about applying or if you just started working there, to kind of just give my side and just to say keep an eye out for suspicious behavior. And definitely don't ignore red flags, because the longer you work for a company, the deeper you get. And I'm happy that I did not work there for more than 6 months, but it was definitely an interesting time in my life, probably the most bizarre time of my life. But yes, so that's kind of all I have to say. Hey, is he asleep?
He is not.
Oh, my baby's sleeping.
Yes.
But yeah, man, if it wasn't for this guy, if
it wasn't for this chick,
oh man, I wouldn't have made it. But now we have a beautiful baby and an awesome business, and you know, everything we go through makes us stronger.
Oh, that was
what do you think I was doing?
That was a praise?
I can do that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I was praising,
right.
But high fives are good too.
Okay.
But everything we go through, it makes us stronger, and it's for a reason. I know everyone hates when people say that, but yeah, it took me a long time to get over it too. I was super depressed. I was super anxious. my brain went to places it never went before. I was thinking about like revenge. And that's just so not me. And whew, it just took me to a place I'd never been before. And it took me a little, shut up. It took me a little while to dig myself out of that place, but I did. And I'm stronger because of it. So yes, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. I should probably make another video soon. Don't subscribe to me if you just want tea and gossip. That's not what this channel is about.
Yeah, it is. It's not.
Do subscribe if you do want motivational videos and law of attraction videos, because I'm the lamest person you know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.